Hi everyone, it's Ali Stagnita from Hollywood Life, and I am so excited to be going live today with none other than Kat McNamara. She is one of my favorite actresses. She's one of my favorite people. She's an incredible person, and I am so talented, so I'm so excited to talk with her coming up.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. It's so good to see you.
You as well.
So much to talk about. Obviously, as I just introduced you guys, we have Kat McNamara here. And we are so excited to see you in Hallmark's upcoming movie, Love Classified, out on April 16th. And then it premieres on their new streaming service, which is so exciting.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about this movie. You're starring alongside Melora Hardin, who's amazing.
Melora is just incredible. She's such a force to be reckoned with, and in every way, but also one of the kindest, most joyful individuals on set. And it's always inspiring for someone like me who, has been working for a while and all of this, but to see women in the industry who have maintained careers with such longevity and such diversity in roles and such kind of all-encompassing aspects,
Yeah.
and to get to kind of play her daughter and to work with her and see how she works in real life. It's incredible. Big fan. But also, the film itself is so lovely, and the script really struck me instantly, because it's at its core, it's just a story about letting love surprise you and letting love come into your life in a way that is unexpected, as it often does. And as our world moves forward, it's amazing to have opportunities to tell stories that are just about love at its core, and not putting, any stigmas or labels or anything on what that can mean.
Definitely. It really seems like a story about connection, and not just, a romantic connection, but a familial connection.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something, especially after the last few years, that everybody can relate to.
Absolutely. And a lot of these characters, particularly my character Taylor, has had a lot happen in her life in the last couple of years, and is sort of isolated herself emotionally. And, through a course of several events, decides, what, it's time, I'm going to put myself out there again, and looks for a connection. And each of these characters in the story is missing a piece of that human connection, whether it be familial or in friendship or in work or life or love. And throughout the course of the story, these people are brought together not only through these connections, but as a community. And it's just a really lovely, touching story that is very grounded in kind of where our world's at today.
Absolutely. And it seems like it's a bit of a modern love story as well. You and your co-star, Arian Mond, I don't want to say her name incorrectly, Arian Mondi.
Yeah.
Is that right? Oh, perfect. Okay, great. So tell me a little bit about just that on-screen chemistry that's obviously already screaming through the trailer. I mean, the comments on the YouTube of the preview, people are like, I'm so ready for this.
No, Ari's fantastic, and we just instantly clicked and had so much fun building this story together, because ultimately what it's about, it's it's all centered around this app called Classified. And it's sort of a community message board, and in the way the old-fashioned little classifieds you used to put seeking whatever romantic connection or this or that, it's now through an app. And through this community, people kind of put themselves out there in whatever way, and Taylor, my character, decides to do so in the dating and relationships aspect, and so does Ari's character. And these two people connect, and shows up for a date, and it just so happens to be a woman, and Taylor looks at her and goes, you know what, sure, let's see where this goes, and let's you have a genuine connection with a person. And the ability of these characters to just be open to connection and to love and to seeing where it takes you is a really beautiful thing.
Absolutely. I mean, I met my boyfriend on an app, and we've been together for almost 2 years. And
Oh,
it's like such a
congratulations.
real thing. So it's such a real thing, though, that you have to take that chance and look for something unexpected. And it's a really great lesson to so many young women and men out there too who feel like they haven't met their match, and it could just be, you know, a stroke of a keyboard.
Absolutely. Well, the world is a big and beautiful place, and there's so many people out there that are looking for connections also. It's a really lovely story in a lot of ways, and it also comes back to family as well. You know, it's this mom and her two kids who have sort of been rocked by this tragedy, and through the course of this story they're able to work through some of those issues in, you know, a slightly tumultuous but ultimately hopefully beneficial way.
Definitely. Now, tell me, what was the most difficult thing about stepping into this role, like that you maybe struggled with, but eventually got as you were playing Taylor?
I think I wouldn't say, I mean, each project presents its own challenges. And I think, you know, maybe the most difficult thing about this entire project was choreography in the plant store. You know, they made this beautiful plant store. My character runs a sort of, it's a plant store. That's all I can kind of describe it as. But as we've created all of these scenes, we kept trying to, you know, work with our director, Stacy, and figure out ways to make the space new and fresh. And there were times where we got a little bit carried away with, okay, I'm going to pick up this plant and that plant and carry this over here. I'm a bit of an awkward individual. Yeah. And so, you know, there were a few moments of comic relief, but hey, that's what it's about, right?
Exactly, exactly. You're getting your sea leg. You had sea legs a little bit as you returned to sets.
100%.
Sure.
But it did definitely inspire a green thumb. I'm having to resist buying a million plants for my apartment now.
Oh, that's so fun. Oh my gosh, I know. I've been trying to keep, I'm like looking at one. I'm like, I've been trying to keep one alive, and it's one that's like hard to kill.
I know. Well, and I travel so much too that I'm always like, oh, I'll buy all these plants and it'll be lovely, and then I'm never home. So
then you come home and they're dead, and it's sad. I know. I know. Oh my gosh. Well, you're so great at floating between genre to genre. You can do drama, you can do comedy, obviously rom-coms, and a lot of action. Mm-hmm. Is there a genre that you haven't gotten to touch yet that you'd really like to?
A little bit of everything. You know, it's funny you ask that, because my answer was always that I'd love to do a period piece. You know, I always said, you know, put me in a corset and a hoop skirt and I'm a happy girl. But currently I'm shooting the pilot for Walker Independence for the CW, in which I am in a corset for most of it. So
there you go.
It's, you know, you put things out in the world and they end up manifesting eventually, hopefully. But
that's true.
It's been a lot of fun, and you know, I have to find my new answer for that question, I guess. But ultimately, my goal, as my favorite thing about my job, is that I get to be a chameleon, and I get to live a million different lives and sort of experience all of these different aspects of what life can be, and tell the stories of as many different kinds of people as possible. So, you know, that's kind of a promise I made to myself at the beginning of my career, is that I wouldn't ever get stuck just doing one thing. I constantly, because if you keep pushing yourself and you keep seeking that diversity, it really allows for growth. And that's how you know, grow as an artist and as a human.
Absolutely. And speaking of Walker, I know that you can't say too much, but can you tell us what intrigued you and captivated you about the role of Abby?
Oh, so many things. I mean, I've always wanted to do a Western, and I've always wanted to do a period piece of this nature. And there's such a legacy to the Walker story, and especially with what Jared's done with the new show and everything else, it's really grown in so many ways. And as soon as I read the script, it's so captivating, and the cast of characters is, oh, Philly's watching. Hey, Philly! Yeah. Another member of the cast of Walker Independence. But it's such an incredible cast of characters and an incredible cast of actors bringing this to life. And, you know, everybody a part of this production, from our director to literally every single element, is so beautifully done. And there's so much richness in the world and so much attention to detail. But it's also a very different Western than I think anyone has ever seen. And that's something that's exciting to all of us that are a part of it, is that it's a Western, but it's brand new.
Yeah. So cool. We definitely can't wait to see it. Have you and Matt Barr been able to discuss your chemistry and just like the dynamic that you hope to have?
Matt Barr is wonderful. We had a chemistry test on Zoom, which is one of the oddest things that you'll ever do as an actor.
Yeah.
Zoom meetings are hard enough, and yet, you know, trying to figure out if you can act on screen with someone is another story. But as soon as I met Matt, I knew that we were going to get along both personally and professionally and just have so much fun together. And also, you know, he cares so much about this character and this story as well, obviously. Hey, Matt, he's watching too.
Oh my gosh. Hi, guys.
But we've just had the best time kind of building this with the rest of our cast and crew. This process has been such a dream, and I'm really, really grateful to be a part of it.
Amazing. And is there a story, kind of similar to the genre question, is there a story that you really want to tell that has yet to be given a cinematic treatment?
That's a really interesting question. There are several, and you know, through the pandemic, I think all of us kind of thought, what are other ways in which we can be a part of storytelling? And I've sort of dabbled now in writing and producing and seeking directing opportunities, and so those things are coming. I don't want to say too much yet, but those things are definitely coming. But I think ultimately what I look for in stories is something challenging and something unexpected. And you know, there's all of the stories I tend to gravitate toward are those where it on the surface there is sort of an apparent look or feel or element to these characters, and that as you get to know them and as you dive deeper, there's so much more there. And that's the fun of it, is discovering and digging in and going, what can I do to make this even deeper?
Absolutely. And I know you are always creating and you're always thinking about what's next. And you just launched a podcast with Dominic for that's your Shadow Hunters podcast. Yeah. Does this journey give you hope that maybe Shadow Hunters could come back in some way in the future?
This is probably the most common question that I get asked. And this is part of why we're doing the podcast. You know, we don't know, because you know, if Friends can do a reunion 10 years down the line, if, you know, the West Wing can do a reunion, Shadowhunters, I'm sure at some point can do some iteration thereof. At least I hope. If anyone ever needs a Clary Frey again, I volunteer as tribute. But as far as the podcast goes, you know, we do get asked this question all the time, and the Shadow fam has so much love, and it's a fandom that has a life of its own now, beyond the story and beyond the show and beyond any of us. And, you know I can speak for the rest of our cast in saying that we love the Shadow fam, and we are in awe of this community that the fandom has created, and want to do everything we can to help foster that. And also, you know, for me, Shadowhunters was from age 19 to 23, which is such a huge transformative shaping period of your life. And I was lucky to be surrounded by so many wonderful people in creating the show, and with such an amazing fandom. And when I was approached about doing a podcast for Shadowhunters, I thought this could be the perfect opportunity to sort of relive that and tell all the stories that we haven't been able to tell up until this point, and to celebrate this fandom. And so I called Dom up and said, hey, do you want to do this with me? And he was, of course, 100% in. So it's been a really fun process and a very hard secret to keep.
Oh, I'm sure. How has it been for you, just even looking back at those episodes and just the storylines that you went through, and now I'm sure you have a really different perspective?
Yeah, it's wild. We didn't realize that it was 7 years ago that we shot the show. And we're completely different people than we were when we started the series. But it's such a lovely thing to look back on, because we do have such fond memories of creating the show. And I think we have more silly stories that we've forgotten than we could ever possibly remember. But as we sort of watch through these episodes and bring in other guests, because we are also bringing in other cast members and designers and producers and writers and other people who were just as instrumental in telling this story as each of us, to tell their version of the story and to reminisce and to, you know, talk a little bit about how that magic was created on screen. Because that's, again, so much of what made the show what it was, is the camaraderie between every element of production.
Definitely. And those behind the scenes stories are what people now are like, you know, when you hear something aligned with a scene that went viral at one point, and that's just, it's a really cool thing to be able to look back on your body of work like that.
It's a lot of fun. And, you know, there's definitely embarrassing moments along the way, but that's all part of the fun.
Of course, of course. Is there anything else coming up for you that you wanted to talk about? Anything going on in your life that you wanted to put out there?
At this point, I think that just about covers it. There are other things coming soon, but I can't quite talk about them yet.
All right.
But those are the big ones. But thank you so much for taking the time to chat today, and thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Yes, everybody tune into Love Classified on Hallmark April 16th, and then it will be on Hallmark Movies Now, the streaming service from Hallmark.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Kat.
Thank you, my dear. Have a great rest of your day.
You as well. Mwah.
Bye.
We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.